Today, we're talking about an album that's, well, it's less a collection of songs and more like a dense, chaotic time capsule. We're diving into Sonic Youth's 1986 masterpiece, EVOL. So, yeah, let's get right into it.
Tom Violence is a dream coming out of a girl. Now, that's a line from the album's liner notes, and it's kind of this cryptic little key that unlocks the whole thing. See, Evolve isn't just music. It's a puzzle box of American anxieties, a document of a very specific, very fractured moment in time.
So let's look at the basic facts. Released in May 1986 on the legendary punk label SST. But even here, there are some fascinating clues. The cover model, that's underground film icon Lungleg, and the title itself, EVOL. It's just love spelled backwards. That simple flip, that inversion, that's really the key to the entire record. It's all about the dark, violent flip side of passion and, the American dream.
To really get EVOL, you have to understand the world it came out of. Back in the early 80s, the American underground wasn't this one big happy family. Oh no. It was really a tale of two very different cities. You had New York City's nihilism squaring off against LA's punk scene.
Sonic Youth's own Thurston Moore once described the LA punk scene as, quote, dopey. It was this reaction against the super mellow Eagles sound, and they were borrowing a lot from UK punk. But New York, where Sonic Youth came from, was totally different. Their scene was called no wave. It was way more intellectual, atonal, and it was basically born in art galleries. The goal wasn't just to react to rock and roll. As Moore put it was to destroy any strain of rock and roll still alive in punk. So Evo comes directly from that nihilistic art school impulse.
And that impulse? It led them to explore this central, really disturbing theme that you can feel on every single track of the album. A deep, almost obsessive fascination with the nature of violence.
Let's start with a classic American archetype, from The Great Gatsby, Tom Buchanan. He represents this violent, brutish side of old money. He's a man of enormous power and a cruel body, a character just defined by his physical aggression. Just keep that image in your head for a second. Because the album opens with a track called Tom Violence. And yeah, that connection is completely deliberate. Sonic Youth is taking that literary brute, Tom Buchanan, and just transmuting him into pure sound, what's been called a psychological apocalypse that perfectly sets the tone for the entire record. But this violence isn't just literary. It has a specific geography. Right around the same time Sonic Youth was making Evolve, this whole new genre called surf noir was popping up in literature. It took that sunny, happy image of California and just fused it with this dark, criminal dread.
And Evil's paranoia isn't just some general feeling, it is specifically a California paranoia. I mean, the band had already gone there with their song Death Valley 69, which is all about the Manson murders. So by putting Lungleg, the star of that song's video, on the cover of Evolve, they're tapping directly into this whole lineage of sun-bleached horror, where beautiful landscapes are just hiding these terrible, terrible secrets.
But the album wasn't just looking to history for its material, not at all. It was also absorbing the violence of its own time, stuff that was ripped straight from the celebrity tabloids of 1986.
Okay, so the final track on the album is called Expressway to Your Skull, but it has an alternate title. A title that connects it directly to the most famous and maybe the most famously volatile celebrity couple of the era, Madonna, Sean, and me. Now, to really understand this connection, we need to bring another person into the mix, the novelist Harry Crews. He was a writer who was absolutely obsessed with the grotesque and the violent, and he kind of provides the perfect literary lens for the raw, real-world drama that was playing out.
This timeline, it just shows a perfect storm brewing. In the mid-'80s, Sean Penn's outbursts against photographers were constant news. Then, in May '86, Sonic Youth responds by naming a track Madonna, Sean, and Me. And then years later, author Harry Crews actually writes about going to a Tyson fight with the couple, watching this vortex of fame and violence firsthand. The point is, EVOL didn't just comment on celebrity culture. It absorbed it in real time. It turned tabloid headlines into art. This blending of high and low culture, literary archetypes and celebrity gossip, that is classic Sonic Youth. But the album's deepest literary connection, well, it goes back to one of the true cornerstones of American literature. From The Great Gatsby, of course. This is maybe the ultimate statement on the failure of the American dream. This idea of a perfect future that's always just out of reach, always slipping away from us. Okay, now think about the track In the Kingdom 19. It's a spoken word piece by Mike Watt of the Minutemen, and the context here is just absolutely heartbreaking. This was the very first thing Watt recorded after his best friend and bandmate Dee Boone was killed in a van crash just a few months before the album came out. And this is where the album circles right back to Gatsby. Fitzgerald's orgastic future is a metaphor, right? It's a dream that fades away. But for Mike Watt and the whole punk community, that fading dream wasn't some metaphor. It was Dee Boone, a literal future of music and friendship that was violently extinguished in a highway crash. EVO takes that big, abstract tragedy and makes it painfully, brutally real.
So, what happens when you put all of this together? You've got celebrity scandal, literary theory, personal tragedy, political decay. What do you get? You get an album that acts like a lock groove on a record, just endlessly replaying the chaotic sound of its own year.
Let's ground this in a very specific moment. On July 25th, 1986, the EVOL tour hits Washington, D.C. At that time, D.C. was being called the murder capital of America. It was the absolute height of the crack epidemic, run by Kingpin Rayful Edmond, and the city was being governed by the notoriously corrupt Mayor Marion Barry. This was the world that EVOL was being played in.
And this infamous quote from Mayor Barry's eventual arrest, it just perfectly captures the paranoid, conspiratorial, and decayed political energy of the time. It's an energy that you can feel echoing throughout the entire album. So EVOL really becomes this collage. It's a lock groove where all these totally separate pieces, high literature, raw punk, tabloid culture, political rot, underground film, they're all forced to just collide over and over and over again. This is exactly how a record becomes a true cultural artifact. It absorbs everything around it, it reflects the violence of its time, it channels the energy of its scene, and then it synthesizes it all into something totally unique. EVOL isn't just about 1986. In a very real way, it is 1986. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought. What if we think of an album like this not just as entertainment, but as a kind of conspiracy board? A map that's frantically trying to connect all the beautiful, violent, and broken pieces of a moment in time, showing us the hidden patterns that really define an era.